upscaling and upsizing all of our bridges to meet big water events. Makes our road network that much more sustainable. So today we've done 174 of these. We've built 174 bridges, and that's reconnected 170 miles of spawning habitat, which makes this one of the largest, if not the largest, watershed restoration project in the United States. And we've been, because we're cheap Yankees, we've done it pretty economically. We've spent about, since 2011 when we started that work, that's been about $6 million invested in fish passage. So pretty cheap for the number of things that we've done. So what's next? So I mentioned we've got this opportunity here, the Whitecap Highlands Forest. I've tried to purchase that 2 other times before, and just the family wasn't ready in their planning for their future. But this past, about a year ago, I got an opportunity from an anonymous conservation funder who said, you know, if you can strike a deal, we'll buy that and give it to you. And I said, that's a pretty good incentive. So, and fortunately the timing worked out. So that family was at a point where they were ready to move on, and so we were able to strike a deal. That anonymous owner owns that property as of October last year. We're managing it on their behalf until we raise stewardship dollars to do a couple things. Endow that property in perpetuity. They've been pretty heavily harvested, so we wanted to make sure that we can take care of it. And then also do the fish passage work now. There's several miles of fish passage work that needs to be restored. And then once those stewardship dollars are raised, that property will be given to us, which is just, I still can't believe what a phenomenal gift that is for this effort. We're doing pretty good. We've raised about $12.8 million to date since December, so I'm feeling good. Hopefully get over the line. This is a little bit more of a zoomed-in view of that property. I mean, it really butts up against the Appalachian Mountains. You know, our current ownership is down here and around the outside edge. So if you've ever been to the top of Whitecap, or if you get up to the top of Whitecap, you'll be able to look out at this landscape that'll be permanently conserved. Every acre of forest to the southeast of you will stay that way, all the way down to ground level. We're reopening the property to the public. It had been closed to the public. It had been gated, this full property, about 3 years ago. The gates are already out, and we'll start forest management work here in a couple of years once we rebuild a lot of the road network. So these take time, but we feel pretty good about being able to do some good work on this property as it's reunited with the rest of the watershed. So that was all I had for you today, and hopefully left enough time for a few questions, but I do want to just say thank you to everybody in this room. I mean, I truly, when I started work for AMC, well, first off, you know, I think this is a story that's not too unfamiliar to many of you. I mean, it's hard growing up to think of ways to stick around and get a chance to, to have, find a career. And it certainly was when I graduated from college in 2010. We were just on the heels of the Great Recession, and it was a rough time economically. But, I think I've been incredibly grateful for being able to work for AMC, but I've been more importantly grateful for everything that a lot of people in this room have taught me about this place, and a land ethic that I try to adhere to every single day in my job, because if this doesn't work for the people in this room and these communities, then we're not doing what we should be. And I've always tried to keep that front of mind in my work. So I just want to thank you all for that opportunity and for everything that you all taught me. Does anyone have a question for Steve?
So I know opinions differ on Roxanne and Quimby's efforts, and I didn't know if you could bring up a map of what you have and then describe what she has, and if you find, I know that she gave or sold or some of the land to you, but just kind of what do you think of her efforts combined with yours?
Well, it's funny you ask. No, that's fine. No, I mean, I think this is fair, and I think this is some of the growing pains that conservation as a concept has gone through, right? I mean, Roxanne was very clear early on about her intentions. She wanted a national park. She wanted the brand recognition that came with a national park. That was a concept very important to her. A place like the Barnard Forest, that was never going to be the home of the national park. That was trade land for her. She needed to have enough land in reserve to be able to trade parcels to get land that she really wanted. And so what that meant from a local perspective is, she felt to keep it tradable, she kind of had to put it on ice, which meant, you know, shutting down the roads. They pulled a lot of roads, they got rid of a lot of lease camps. And in their mind, that was a way to kind of keep it mobile and keep it tradable. What that meant to all of us that have lived around that forest is we lost access to 28,000 acres that we used to hunt on, we used to work on, we used to fish on. So, you know, for us as an organization, it took me a while. I tried to buy that property a couple different times. And they finally said yes back in 2023 that they would consider selling it. And so we paid $15.2 million for that property, and it's been pretty meaningful to be able to reopen that and go back to these places that are literally out the back door for all of our towns, and know that that's going to permanently be open. So I don't fault her in the sense that, like, the vision was, and at the end of the day, what she did, she gave 87,000 acres of land that she bought every acre of to the people of the United States. So you can disagree with her whether it should have been a national park or a national forest or a national monument or some other conservation vehicle. But I think it's hard to disagree with a gift of 87,000 acres. And on the back end, we finally were able to figure out a permanent solution for this that keeps it open for what we all value. And I think that's what I've been grateful for.
Steve, I travel a fair amount up in the Northwoods, and I know we see more and more large parcels being sold to private. What are your thoughts about that? What's your experience with that and the impact that it may have?
Well, I mean, I think it's funny, if you look at history long enough, the cycles start to seem familiar. You know, we've had, in the early 1800s, there was a tremendous amount of speculation in timberland. And it was just that, it was speculation. And then the latter half of the 19th century, it really settled into kind of folks making investments, capital investments in industry. And I think we're back in this phase of speculation. You know, you look around the world, there's a lot of money in Europe right now. And, you know, when I go to buy timberland, most of the people on the other side of the deal are getting offers from investors in Europe who want to buy timberland because there's no land to buy in Europe. They've sold it all.
Right.
So, I mean, I think the reasons for wanting to put money into land have shifted over time, as they always do. But I think what's critically important, which is why I mentioned the Land for Maine's Future program, is that, you know, we have this very carefully time-honored tradition of private land supporting public values. And if that matters to all of us, it's going to take some investment from the public in protecting some of those values. And I think that's what's tough, is finding the way to both meet the economic needs of the whole community while also guaranteeing public outcomes that we really rely on.
Earlier on, you touched on like the real estate investment trusts and timber management trusts. Two-part question. Are they interested in your forestry management model? And secondly, as their holding period comes to an end, are you engaged with them to acquire more land?
Yeah, so I think, you know, there's challenges for them to be able to just kind of utilize forest management in the way that we're able to, because the time horizon is too short. Trees don't grow in 15 to 12 year cycles, but that's the cycle in which funds grow. So I think what you're seeing is there are some TMOs and REITs who are really focused on thinking about conservation outtakes or outsales as part of their capital stack. So even if they don't own it long enough, they have raised that working capital with the promise that there'll be some sort of conservation at the end of it. Whether it's the state, some NGO that ultimately buys that conservation to recapitalize that fund. Not all of them operate like that, but some certainly do. I think, you know, we've been successful in a very targeted way in buying land from REITs and TMOs because, you know, I think of my role as a land acquisition manager, give me your tired, your poor, your worn out forests, you're going to breathe free, right? You know, you can do a lot if you don't have to make a return in 100 years on that piece of property. You can think differently about the values. And so that's meant that we, as long as we're buying at a justifiable price, we can't overpay, then we'll be all right.
What are the AMC's funding sources? I mean, obviously private individuals and then some profits from the lodges, but you're not having a lot of bake sales and shows.
No, I wish we could do cookies. I probably look a little different, but no, I mean, I will tell you, this is literally the largest thing AMC's ever done, and I think every time that I call the phone and say, I've got another one, you know, the board of directors like, it's a pucker factor, because I mean, it's risky, right? You know, so just to give you a sense of scale, I mean, I've been fortunate enough to buy $96 million in real estate for the AMC. We've raised every cent of that over the last 12 years from Maine. I mean, some of that has been super creative financing. So we've oftentimes, you know, I strike a deal and then I can't buy the land because we don't have the cash sitting there, so I have to get a loan. So there's been really good bridge financing that has come through places like the Conservation Fund that allows me to buy land quickly and then gives us time to raise the money to pay it back.
Yeah.
But it's a full mix of private donors and public dollars, and we have to be, none of these projects have used the same funding sources. Everyone's been unique.
Thanks, Steve. I want to thank you, and I'm sure all of us do, for your efforts and the work you're doing, because it is critical to have access to what we have now. And before I let you go, I need to tell you my one Steve Tatko story. So when Monson Academy closed, the trustees had foresight enough to take a pool of money and set it aside to be used for scholarships. So each year we give out scholarships. Steve was a recipient of those scholarships for 4 years that he was in school. Not big money, but probably bought a couple of books. The thing that always impressed me, we usually get a thank you note from the kids that we give scholarships to. With Steve, every year I would get a full-page letter sharing how school was going, what he was doing, what he was planning. And so I thought then, Steve's going to do well. And you have thoroughly impressed us with what you shared today, and thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
That's fantastic.